Okay, cool. Full house. I think that's the German Pünktlichkeit we call it when we're all on point to start. Very good. Before we start, I have some instructions for you. Also, we're here the whole days. If you need to charge your phone, you can do it upstairs in the first floor. There are the local Bavarian radio stations, and you can put your phone there and get some info if you need something. So. Now we'll start with a good topic, radio future in the connected car. And which state would be better to talk about cars than Germany?
Right.
And Bavaria also. It's a good point. We have many local radio stations, and to be in the connected car with them are very important for us. That's why Joey is here today and is the moderator for this session. Have fun.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us today. This is the Xperi session where we're going to talk about the challenges and opportunities in the connected car. And we'll take a look at DTS Auto Station, how we're helping to address some of those challenges. But before we get started, let's welcome our panelists. So let's start over here with Rüdiger. If you can tell us a little bit about you and your history in the industry.
My name is Rüdiger, and I work in radio for more years than I want to admit. However, if you think this is Nickelback because this is three old people, three old white guys here, it's not, because we also got two shiny young guys, so we're not Nickelback.
Back band.
I'm now working as CDO at Kronehit, working on the transformation of our station into a multi-brand station with new workflows. And I like everything connected with data and figures and Excel sheets, so that's why I like
We have data,
And they have data, yeah.
Jim?
Yeah, I'm Jim Receveur. I'm the CEO for Bauer in both Norway and in Denmark. I probably have worked in the radio business longer than Rüdiger, and I've been in all areas, in the programming and the sales and also ownership of the radio as well. So I'm a very entrepreneurial person that really looks at the future and how will we tackle the future for the radio, and especially in cars.
Great, thanks, Jim. Iris?
Hello, my name is Iris Rothkirch, and my job at BMW is to visualize the radio experience. You can experience our latest connected radio product in the X2 car, which you can find outside. So what is connected radio? Connected radio is basically a visual enrichment of the classical tuner by using online metadata. So for example, you can see station logos, album covers, or the name of the currently played song. This, however, is only the first step of an improved radio experience. For the future, we want to launch more features and more innovations. Personally, as product owner for BMW, I can perfectly combine my dual background in psychology and IT. On the one hand, I can understand the user needs, and on the other hand, I can transfer them into technical requirements. My aim as product owner for BMW is to create user-friendly and great products like connected radio.
Great, thank you. And Kai?
Hello, everyone. My job at BMW is to make it sound great. So Iris does the visuals and the connection of the information we get on the radio service. I'm looking into the sound systems. Together with my colleagues, we aim to create the best sound systems to match all our customer needs. Maybe let's do a quick survey in this room. Where are the hard rockers here? Any hard rockers? Please raise your hands. Some of them. How about classical music? Some passion about classical music? Well, not so much. What about electronic music? Okay, and the jazz guys and girls? Okay, so I mean, I might assume it's quite diverse, the different interests, so, and that's the challenge for us. Our systems have to sound great for all the different demands and needs, and yeah, that's what we're looking into together with the colleagues. And yeah, coming from a passion for listening to audio music content on my own, it's quite a thrilling task to do. So I see myself as a kind of sound creator in that role.
Great. Well, thank you. So you can see we have a very diverse panel here to speak about everything from content production, content distribution, and consumption in the vehicle. And you know, there's no secret that technology is revolutionizing the dashboard. You've got connectivity now, technology platforms, and more content than ever, right? I'm sure you've all used Spotify, Apple Music, CarPlay, et cetera. And all those technologies provide opportunity, but they also provide significant challenges. Radio is no longer a simple broadcast one-way medium that it lives alone in the dash, but is a technology now that has to compete for prominence, channel control. It has to be integrated with very complex multimedia systems. So we're gonna spend a little bit of time going through some of these challenges from both an automotive perspective and a broadcast perspective, because I think each one of these challenges, when you overcome them, unlock amazing user experiences. So Kai, let's start with you and the technology choice. How do you make your decision about, you know, quite frankly, who gets into the dash of BMW vehicles?
I mean, let me start first of all with the radio service. It's still a very, very important entertaining source for us in the vehicle. And now we see it's varying across the regions that we focus on, but it still plays an important role. Now, it's quite interesting to see how does this get together with all the competition arising from streaming services compared to the classical radio tuning. And for us, in this first place, it's the question about integration. Yeah? We have a different integration if we try to provide a classical radio service via tuning, via the tuner, or if we do like IP web-based radio. Mm-hmm. So that's the fundamental difference in the first place.
How important is like geographic coverage? Because you sell, you know, products around the world. You sell vehicles in every market. And you know, radio, we'll talk about this a little later, radio's strength is its diversity, but that's a huge challenge when you're looking to do something consistently around the world.
The BMW brand is a promise, and that promise is that we deliver a high quality service to all of our customers. And for sure, the ambition and the target is to deliver that worldwide to all of our customers wanting to have this service. So in that case, it's really important. And of course, if it's outside of our core business, we try to find the best partner to realize the target and to deliver a high quality radio service.
That's great. And you know, Rüdiger and Jim, from your perspective, as you look at that dashboard and all the competition and all the opportunities, how do you think about things like the old days of the channel control, when you could just directly broadcast, reach the customer, or even the editorial control around your content? Is that something that scares you, is a challenge for you?
I mean, gone are the days where you had this famous promotion, store the station on #1, and if we catch you, then you win a prize, because there is no button with #1 anymore, in case you didn't notice. Of course, it's really hard. I was in Germany about 6 weeks ago. I was driving from Stuttgart to Frankfurt, and I had a Volvo car. So, Volvo car, you can stay relaxed. It was a rental car. Okay. It was not my choice. Was not my choice. Yeah, it was a good car. However, it was really hard to find the radio on there, because there was a shiny red YouTube button, a very nice green Spotify button, and in row 4, I think, on third place, there was this grayish radio thing. Yeah, and I said, okay, I know this radio thing, I liked it, and I clicked on it, and it started playing. And then I was a little confused by the sort of the channels, because it started with all the DAB+ channels, and later on all the FM channels. So if you were an FM channel on this specific car ride between Stuttgart and Frankfurt, then probably you would show up at position 40, position 50, depending on how many DAB+ channels the system will get. And that's the most important thing. At least we should be findable on the dashboard. It's totally important that people that know our brands, see our logos, are triggered by that, and can use this with a touch of a button, and not in the third or fourth menu from the left.
Jim, you represent the largest commercial broadcaster in Europe with operations throughout multiple countries. How does Bauer face this challenge? How do you think about it?
Bauer looks at it as it's extremely exciting. It has some, shall I say, challenges that we have to look at, because obviously for many, many years we more or less owned the FM, and today we don't own FM anymore. There's many, many choices that we have to look at, and that means we have a responsibility also to make sure that we continue to have our branding and our product as number one. But I can give you a very short example. As I mentioned earlier, I'm responsible for Norway as well, and Norway, which maybe some of you don't know, but Norway was one of the first countries in the world, and the only country I think in the world, that shut off FM about 5 years ago. And in that, we went from 4 national FM radio stations to 36 national DAB radio stations. And if you look at the top 4 radio stations, though, in Norway today, they're the exact 4 that were on FM that are the top 4 now on DAB, even though there's a choice of 36. That means that there's a lot of responsibility as branding to say, we are so much ahead right now. We do own the media. People are listening to us on FM. So if we don't enter and embrace the car, in principle, it's our own fault. We're dropping the ball. We've got such a lead right now. It's up to us to make sure that all these choices that we have, we've got to turn around and embrace them and make them more interesting.
So Iris, you're kind of where the rubber hits the road, and you put the consumer choice and all of this content together into the integration. What are some of the challenges you and your team are facing as you're looking to basically enhance radio and redefine the medium?
Yeah, I mean, as you already mentioned in the beginning, so there is a big competition, like with other audio streaming apps, for example, Spotify, Amazon Music. So it's not easy for radio to compete here, because you have additional features like recommendations, personalizations, and especially for younger drivers, I would say they used to take like their own music within the car as well. So it's not easy for radio to compete here, and that's why we have to bring radio onto a next level, I would say, and give it also a more modern look and feel, and include more features and functionalities.
Great. So this isn't fantasy, this is reality. We have audio, video, and gaming sitting side by side in the dashboard of vehicles. Not all the use cases are the same. Some are safe while you're driving, others while you're charging or parked. But this is the environment that radio is facing. We all know that broadcast radio, you've heard it, it's a critical medium around the world, whether you're in a country broadcasting with DAB, HD radio, or analog. Billions of people listen to radio in billions of cars around the world every day. But as I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest challenges that we've seen in working with car companies and broadcasters is the localism, the distributed architecture of radio stations. If you're looking to innovate with a service that's going to bring a consistent user experience around the world, it is an extremely difficult challenge for broadcasters to do that on an individual basis. So in this world of converged digital media, how can radio compete? It's our thesis at Xperi that it requires sustained collaboration. And that's a fancy term, but it basically means that the net result of the efforts of the collaborators behind any system have to be greater than their individual contributions. And they have to be sustainable. We're up against unbelievable competition with massive, massive financial, human, and intellectual property resources. And as an industry, we have to face that reality and figure about how does this not only get deployed, delight consumers, take advantage of DAB, but how do we ensure that this remains operational for the next decade or 2 decades, or hopefully 50 years? And again, when you look at the panel here, we all have our individual areas of expertise. Broadcasters are fantastic in producing and curating content, connecting with their audience. You have automakers that are masters in manufacturing, design, integration, and Xperi is the world leader in content aggregation and distribution across multiple mediums, music, radio, video. And thankfully, that has all come together in DTS AutoStage. And I just want to sit here for a second and have you look at this screen and have the panelists speak about this. This is radio. This is broadcast radio. Like, how different is this from the days of a dial and frequency position? You know, you've seen the evolution of what DAB can bring into Europe with station lists and logos, but now you're seeing live dynamic information being added to help drivers and audiences connect with content. I mean, Jim, when you look at this and you see radio stations that at a glance, a driver can see exactly what song is playing, how does that make you feel about your challenge to protect your brand and increase discovery of your new formats?
It excites me. I mean, the more we can tell about our brand, if it's on visual, if we can get the artist's information, the more information we can give about the artist, the more we can tell about which type of radio station we are and what we're doing. This really excites me. But it also excites me when I'm looking at this as well to show that today we're not a radio brand, we're an audio brand. And if I look just two farther down there, it says stations, and right beside it says podcast. We know extremely that especially in the northern part of Europe, we do an amazing amount of podcasts. So if a person says, well, I don't want to hear a radio station anymore, I want to switch over to one of our podcasts, it's a very easy swipe that we keep them still in our universe. So we're looking very much on the audio side. How can we get the young? How can we get the old in all audio factors? So I'm extremely pleased that a radio station can come out and do more with video and information about the artists, etc. But I'm also very interested on what more we can offer on the audio atmosphere than just a radio station, because that's not what we are anymore.
And I would like to add, what I also like about it, it's based on broadcast, so we still own the signal. And it's utterly important, because nowadays between you and your listeners, there are more and more aggregators in between. I don't know how many of you guys have issues with tuning, playing pre-rolls, in-stream spots, whatever. And it's not only about tuning, it's in general, if there's a middleman, then probably he wants something for it in the long run. And this is good technology because it really uses the broadcast. No other ads played, no editorial fiddling around with your stuff. It's really going one-to-one to the dash, and that's what I like.
Yeah. So, Iris and Kai, when you look at this, how do you think this kind of matches your consumers' expectations when they think about digital media platforms and the other platforms that you've implemented?
Yeah, in my point of view, it's important to have like a consistent experience for users. And that's why it somehow matches our other audio services which we provide. So users basically need to have a choice, and that's always important. And yeah, here basically they can choose whatever they want to listen to, and they get a good overview. And in the end, it's the consistency and high quality metadata is really important. So in my point of view, it's very important that the data which you, for example, would provide, they fulfill this requirement of high quality so that we provide the best user experience.
Kai, anything to add?
Yeah, just to add from my perspective, as Iris mentioned, it's good to have the same experience for all the entertainment services. So it shouldn't be the case that you have a fancy video portal and are really attracted to it by using it, and then you go to a streaming service, which is nice as well, and then you go to a radio service and it looks like in the Middle Age. Yeah. Shouldn't be the case, and I'm always disturbed if I end up somewhere in the digit typer where you can select your channel and nobody, I don't know, honestly, I don't know anymore about what's the station code. Yeah, so it's all visual and it's good looking, and that's what you're used to. And
so here you can see an example of the actual listening experience. Rich metadata, behind this you have song lyrics, artist biographies, local events, truly a digital radio experience. So the impact of the collaborations like this is massive. This infrastructure that we've built with our automotive partners supports close to 50,000 radio stations around the world. We're in production with 12 OEMs, 6.5 million cars around the world, and we are enhancing year to date over 2 billion hours of radio listening. So that user experience you saw is in the field, is in the wild, and is being used. Here's a sample or a list of our current automotive partners, and we have 6 more in production or going into production later this year that will launch next year. One of the other unique elements, and I think this is very critical as you look at any of your digital initiatives, is IP and patent protection. If you ever just kind of pay attention to the patents that Apple files, they're constantly filing patent applications around technology that may never come to market, but they're doing it to ensure that they can protect their ecosystem. At Xperi, we offer our partners that same protection. We have over 100 patents around the technology that is represented in AutoStage. Those patents are available to our automotive and broadcast partners. When you work with us as a broadcaster or as an automaker, you get the benefit of that protection. So now we're going to shift gears a little and talk about the actual operation of the system and the insights that we deliver to the broadcasters so that they can help run this global system with us. This heat map represents everywhere in the world where one of our cars equipped with DTS AutoStage is tuned to radio and getting an enhanced radio experience because of the content we are curating and are delivering on your behalf. Every week, right now, we are pacing 1 billion radio engagement confirmations. It's a funny term, it's a new term, but it's basically our way of connecting with the vehicle, confirming that they are listening to radio, that they are listening to a specific station, and the content they are hearing. With that knowledge, we are able to make sure that the broadcast content is delivered into the car the way the car manufacturer expects it to be delivered for that consistent global experience. With those insights, with those confirmations, we are able to tell broadcasters now who, completely GDPR compliant, California privacy compliant, BMW compliant, Mercedes compliance. There's compliance around the world right now that makes this extremely complex. But we are able to basically tell the broadcasters who's listening, where they're listening, when they're listening, how they're listening, DAB versus FM, one transmitter versus another, and what they're listening to. And with these insights, we are able to present to the broadcaster information that they can use to monitor their operation and performance in 6.5 million vehicles and growing around the world. So the first place that the broadcasters get a glimpse into their station information is this landing page now. It's part of our broadcaster portal. Bauer has their view of their station. Kronehit has their view of their stations. And it gives them one stop to look at all of their station information and get a preview of how their station looks in the car. We've even built a receiver emulator. So Jim can select any one of his stations, look at all the data, and see what the user experience is in the car in real time. If you want to see this, come by our booth. We're happy to show you. Now I'm going to ask Jim and Rüdiger to talk about the audience insights. Again, if you think that the objective of this entire system is operational excellence and a consistent user experience, the more the broadcasters know about their audience, they know about their content, they know about the infrastructure, the better prepared they're going to be to meet the expectations of our car partners. So this first slide, I'll just introduce it and I'll ask Jim to comment on it. Here we are giving the broadcasters a sense of their reach. How much of the local audience is actually listening to this station over a given period of time? You get this data 24 hours after the close of day. But, Jim, when you look at this, what does this tell you about this specific radio station and its performance?
The advantage of this is, of course, we can go regional. We can look at what's happening in maybe some of the other areas that that we don't usually look at in Denmark anyways, or in Norway. We're both national, so we use PPM on a regular basis, but PPM mainly looks at the national. So if we were ever going to do a concert or an event in a smaller area, or if we say, okay, there's a huge traffic area going over the bridge going over to Jutland, it would give us a snapshot of what's going on a more local level. And we use so much money on research on a regular basis, on our music research, on our case studies. We use a lot of money on research because radio is not just on your heart, it's your heart and science. And this gives us the extra science as well that helps us make one more, should I say, reason on why we decide to do what we do. And Bauer is extremely interested on factual information. So anytime we can get factual information that can help to tell us more about our listeners and why, it gives us the opportunity to go on the creative side to look at what we should do with it. So these are wonderful factors.
Rüdiger?
Yeah, I can only copy that. Of course, you have to be aware that this is not a typical range of our listeners, because not so many have my bugs, unfortunately, but
Right.
we're working on that.
Yeah.
But still, it gives you some impression, and it's always interesting to correlate these figures with other figures that you have, for example, with streaming data, and see, can you find a pattern?
Yeah, it's important to note that this is not a statistical representation of your audience. This is a subset of cars deployed in the market with our technology. And as you could see, we have 12 brands, but even those 12 brands are not evenly distributed around the world. Vehicle manufacturers, they have staged rollouts and strategies when they launch new platforms where they put certain vehicles. So we'll show you at the end where we're going to give you insights into the actual number of cars in the market. So that gives you a sense of how you're performing over an extended period of time. Here we see the performance of your audience engagement on a day. How are they coming in and responding to your programming? I imagine this is fairly powerful for your program directors and even your ad sellers to know, what day part is going to return the highest audience.
It's nice also to see, because this is, as you mentioned, this is just in the car.
Right.
So for us, it's nice to compare the into the car in comparison with at the office or at home. So it gives us an opportunity also to, on a regular basis, use this as a point to say, how do our listeners compare in the different listening areas? And that's extremely important for us as well to know where our listeners, because again, we sell PPMs, so time spent listening is extremely important for us. So for us to know how long these people are, can we do something to hold them just 1 minute longer, is extremely important.
Yep, and Rüdiger, your chart looks a little different, but
Yeah, it looks like our audience is going to work pretty late. I'm kind of shocked. I'm kind of shocked by that. But having said that, yeah, that's totally cool and fine. I think it's important to know it's only the in-car consumption.
Right.
So it will obviously show all the commuting that you have in your marketplace. Again, in this case, it's the best data we have about cars.
Right.
And of course, it would be better if the DTS market share was 100% in cars, and I'm sure you work on that.
we'd welcome it tomorrow, of course.
Yeah, very good. But still, it's the best data we have, and it's always great also to show to your sales execs. For example, if you're selling sponsorships for traffic, and you can see here's the peak. This is a premium position. That makes sense.
Great. And, now we're going to talk a little bit about where and how they're listening. And I think this is very important, especially as, there's raging debates in the car industry about, do I need AM radio? Do I need FM radio? Do I need radio at all? And with this information that we're going to show here is not only, yes, people are listening to radio, but how are they listening? Are they listening on FM, DAB, where are they listening? What regions have dependency maybe on AM radio even? So in this slide, you see for Nova, Jim's station, all of the, well, this isn't even all of them, but this is all the transmitters that we could fit on this screen that represent their coverage area throughout the country. And you're able to select one transmitter, in this case DAB, and you can see all the territories that are dependent on that one DAB MUX. So from an operational perspective, you can ensure that your engineers are looking after this MUX. You know exactly where your audience is. And we've seen a lot of use cases. There's a great article in Red Tech this week from Steve Schultes from New York Public Radio around how he's using these analytics to manage his infrastructure. I'm going to jump, because we're a little short on time, and just let Rüdiger maybe talk about the power of this, because you run a pretty amazing FM network across the country.
Austria has a lot of mountains, which is great for skiing and not so much for broadcasting. But hey, it's like it is. So we operate, believe it or not, about 120 FM transmitters for 9 million people. And of course, it's interesting for us to see how are they used, especially if you have some areas that you have covered twice with RDS, to see what does the receiver actually do. Does it switch to this channel or to that channel? So it helps us also to optimize our network.
So I do want to ask BMW to comment on this as well, because I know from our experience with HD radio that field testing any new receiver platform in the real world is a big deal. And when you go out and drive test a new radio, how important is signal reception, signal continuity, whether it's FM or DAB?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's very important, and we do a lot of testing at BMW, so we have a lot of test cars, and whenever there's like a new broadcaster or a new radio station, we would go out and test if the data is reliable, and that's the focus at BMW.
Yeah, so we will deliver these heat maps also back to the OEMs so they can see how their listeners are behaving or their drivers are behaving in the cars. The final piece of the analytics, and again, come by our booth if you want to see this stuff live, is top charts. And this is where we take those radio engagement confirmations I talked about before, and we correlate them with songs. And we basically present back to the broadcaster a list of the most listened to songs for their station. It's not the most played songs. There's probably a high degree of correlation, but these are the most listened to songs. And this is all in the spirit of giving the broadcasters insights from our platform so they can make better radio. They can predict the habits, the desires, the trends of their audience. Rüdiger, what do you think of this? This is your station, so.
It pretty much fits what we're planning in the selector. That's the good thing. So, so the 8 category songs are on the top. But of course, you would see special issues during drive time because you have a higher consumption there. So daytime plays in this wouldn't count as much as we've seen before.
Yep.
But again, it's valuable data, and one day we will maybe even have more granular data that tells us how many tuned out when we're playing Cyril with Samling in one time too often.
Yeah, one of the unique things of our collaboration is we show this kind of data to broadcasters and the OEMs, and they just ask for more, and they ask for a different slice, and can I see this, can I see that, can I predict this? And the answer is yes. The challenge is we're delivering 1 billion of these events a week, and that's, again, only on 6 million cars. So our data set is growing exponentially, and just finding our way through this data and presenting it in a digestible format is a real challenge, but it's one we're committed to. And as part of that commitment, I'm going to just preview a couple enhancements that are coming probably over the summer. If we don't hit the summer, definitely by the NAB show in New York. We get asked all the time, what's my sample size? How many cars are in the market? I'm looking at all this data, but I don't know if that's 10 cars or 1 million cars. So we have developed a way to represent to broadcasters a reasonable representation of their potential audience. We call it service obtainable market. And why that's important, and I'll use the US as an example. In the US, we have markets that are defined by Nielsen. So regardless of the power of your radio station, you are going to be rated based on the population within that market defined by Nielsen. Your radio station may not cover the whole market, so you're immediately going to be handicapped. What we did was we looked at the actual location of cars that are in the receivable range of your signal. And we said, these are the cars that you could reasonably address. So we're not going to penalize you for cars that are out of the market. We're going to give you credit or a foundation to understand your performance based on the cars that actually could tune to your station and listen. And so in this case, for KISS, 150,000 cars in the LA market were driving in and out of coverage during this 30-day period. Of those cars, they realized about a 11% share. So very, very powerful data and insights. And this is going to be deployed worldwide. The next thing, and again, this was a specific request from Rüdiger, was, I've got, what do you have, 170 stations?
7, I think 120 right now and counting, yeah.
Yeah, so 120 broadcast signals around the country. That's too much to look at individually, do 120 little tick marks. So what we did was we've enabled a broadcaster to select multiple stations, multiple frequencies, and understand what that looks like. So here, I forget how many boxes we checked, but this is an array of radio stations right now. So what does this tell you? This is the first time you're seeing it, isn't it?
Yeah, it tells me first I see where the motorways are, because this is where the cars are going, obviously, and where people are looking for parking spaces in Linz and also in Salzburg, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's cool, and it's not like there are not people living outside these green areas in Austria. We have some mountains, but it's not that bad as you might think from this map. No, it really shows that that people were using Kronehit while going on the motorway. And on the other hand, this is a very good view, and thank you for implementing it. That's super. We also then can look more granularly which frequency was it if we again want to optimize our network.
Well, what if I could tell you how those frequencies were used?
And we didn't pre-plan that.
No, we did not.
No.
So here you can see how important each of your different towers are.
Makes perfect sense. The 90.6 FM is a 10 kilowatt transmitter in an urban environment in Linz, and others are a lot weaker. So that's cool. Yeah, absolutely. And it again helps you if you have limited resources, for example, for maintaining transmitters and getting them on the air 24/7 is always a little bit of an issue. Then you would say, but we would have said that before as well, that Linz probably is more important than the 103.7 in Steiermark.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so hopefully you get a sense of the strength of this collaboration, where we are really working together to enhance radio, to keep radio prominent in the dashboard, make sure radio is discoverable, engaging, and most importantly, measurable. Come see it for yourself in booth 9. We have BMW in the booth. We have a Tesla at the main gate when you came in. If you want to see the Tesla implementation, just grab one of us and we'll walk you through that. And I want to thank you all very much for all the prep work and the time to join me today. Thank you. Not bad.
Also, thank you, Joey, for this super moderation. Now we have some time to grab coffee, take some pretzels if you don't have done it before, and the next sessions will start in about 20 minutes.
Great, thank you. Almost.